Hey guys, it's Pixel here, and today I wanted to show you a project I'm currently working on. I think it's pretty much done. Could use a few changes here and there, but essentially it's good to go. But before we go any further, I just want to say that if you haven't noticed, most of the themes I'm running on my case over here are anime related. But you know, it's not like I like anime. I mean, who likes anime nowadays? It's kind of lame, to be honest. But yeah, I've got No Game No Life. I got Monogatari. If you don't like anime, that's fine. We got video games. Look, I've got Hollow Knight. I've got Cancer. I've got Shadow of the Colossus. Nier Automata. You don't want that? That's fine. We've got pixel art here with Mino in your backgrounds. We've got, I don't know what that is. We've got a Pixel City. You don't like that? You want something more intellectual to feed your high IQ? I've got Rick and Morty here, also in pixel, so it's like a double win. You don't want that? You want something a little weird? That's fine. I've got Ethan right here. Ethan, your boy. I mean, it doesn't get any more weirder than that. He's a pretty cool guy, by the way. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's more of what you want. This is what I like, and this is what I'm going to stick to for a while. Anyways, moving on. So one of the downsides I've noticed of having this panel in your case is you need to have it running as a second monitor. Now with me it's not really an issue. I have more than enough RAM to run the second monitor. Actually I have 32 gigs of RAM in my computer right now, which is more than enough for just about anything. But every once in a while I do notice very subtle lag spikes, just these brief pauses, which isn't that big of a deal, but I wanted to see if I could get around that entirely by running the secondary monitor off of a smaller computer and not my actual computer. So I decided to go with the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B. Now this little device right here, it's not very expensive, it's about $35. It has a quad core that runs at 1.2 gigahertz, which is pretty impressive for a $35 computer, and has 1 gigabyte of SD RAM. So my original idea was to actually install Wallpaper Engine on this computer and have it run that so my computer wouldn't have to do it on 2 monitors. The only issue was two things. The Raspberry Pi doesn't have enough RAM to meet the minimum specs needed to run it. However, based on the current usage my computer is using as far as running Wallpaper Engine in the background, it's less than a gigabyte of RAM that it uses. So I assumed it depends on which wallpaper I'm running and the resolution I'm running it at. The second issue was that Raspberry Pi actually runs off a Linux-based OS, if I'm correct, not Windows. So I can't technically run Windows applications on it. I did try another workaround called Exagear, and that didn't work either, so I couldn't run Wallpaper Engine. And theoretically, if I were able to install Wallpaper Engine on a Raspberry Pi, I don't think it would essentially work as it should, because there's a lot of other drivers slash software that it needs that Windows uses that wouldn't be included with just installing the program alone. So I decided to try something else. Now most of these wallpapers are actual videos. From what I've seen, most of them are in the MP4 format. The Raspberry Pi does have a built-in video player called OMX Player, and it runs any video I throw at it very smoothly. The only thing I noticed was, because the first monitor I tested this on before I actually connected it to my panel in my case, was an HD monitor, which is a resolution of 1920 by 1080p. There was some tearing as far as the video playback. I assume it's because of the higher resolution, which is actually, to my understanding, it's max resolution it can play at the Raspberry Pi. It doesn't do like 2K or anything. HD is just its max resolution. The LCD display I have in my computer is not HD actually. It's 1440 by 900 pixels, which is a slightly smaller resolution, which you can't notice at all, but I noticed that the tearing was completely removed when I played video on this, so I assume the smaller resolution helps it, so it isn't as choppy, and as you guys can see, it's a very smooth playback coming back from the Raspberry Pi. So I was really happy that that was removed, because it was kind of disappointing to see it on the other display. I was planning on putting this Raspberry Pi in my computer. One of the issues with it was that I would constantly need access if I needed to change the wallpaper. I'm like, okay, you know, this is cool, but I'm kind of bored with it. I want to do something a little bit more interesting. I would actually need to open up the computer and get access to the Raspberry Pi, connect my mouse and keyboard so that I could actually manually change it, which I wasn't too fond of, because, you know, opening a computer, especially one like this, it gets kind of tiring after a while. So I found a program that actually gets around this called VNC Viewer, and it works with the Raspberry Pi as well. It's just a program that lets you remotely control a desktop from another location or another computer, as long as you have the necessary credentials to access the computer. For example, this Raspberry Pi, it comes with a default username which you can change and a default password which you can change. And lo and behold, I'm able to access it from my computer. So having it inside my computer isn't an issue after I got around that. If I wanted to turn it off, I would actually have to do it manually, not from the actual device, but through VNC Viewer on my computer. So if the computer isn't on and I want to shut it off, I would actually have to turn on the computer and turn it off, so it wouldn't be running in the background. Although, you know, when the computer's off, the screen is off as well, but the Raspberry Pi is still running. I could just disconnect it, but I've noticed that when I just unplug it, the OS on the device gets corrupted, so I can't actually boot it unless I reinstall everything. And after a while, that gets very tiring, so I didn't want to do that. The best solution is to turn it off by actually accessing the Raspberry Pi itself through VNC Viewer and hitting, you know, the shut off button in the program. Besides that, it works very well. It doesn't output a lot of heat. RAM usage on the device is very low running this video, and if I ever want to add more wallpapers, I can actually do it through VNC Viewer. So moving wallpapers from my computer to the Raspberry Pi is pretty simple. Here I have Wallpaper Engine. I'm going to right click, open in folder, find the file I want, go to the VNC Viewer, and select the transfer file option. So just gotta find the same folder, and as you can see, I already created a shortcut, so finding these files doesn't take me very long. Just find the same file name and just select it to get it transferred over. I already have this file here, so now I can actually finish this process. I have most of them right now on my desktop. It doesn't really need to be organized, but if you want to, you can do that. It's your call. So I just find the file name. I renamed most of these, so just simpler file names. That way when I type it into the console, it would be the equivalent of a command box. It's just easier. So I type in the name I want, hit enter, and voila, I have the wallpaper running in the background. You can't actually see the video play on this VNC Viewer, but you can see it on the actual monitor or the actual display, which is weird, but I mean, I don't really mind, so I can at least see what I'm typing in. It makes things a lot easier. At one point in this project, I did want to use VLC Player instead of OMX Player, just because, you know, I've used VLC Player for such a long time on my normal computer. I did install it. The problem was I couldn't get it to run the video without it freezing. So since I couldn't find a way around that, I gave up and just went with OMX Player, regardless of the tearing it was showing at the moment. Right now I have it set so OMX Player opens automatically once the Raspberry Pi is booting, and in order to get it to look the way it looks on the screen right now, the line of code I'm putting in the command box is very specific as to how far the video is stretched, because if I put in the exact measurements of the monitor, it's gonna squeeze the video. So I have it protruding on the side of the monitor, so you don't see parts of the video on the side. It's like getting a 16:9 movie and formatting it to a 4:3 screen. Like, the movie's still there, but you know, it's cropped so that it fits the screen and it isn't squeezed in. And that concludes our video for today. As I said, if there's enough interest, I will make a second video with a lot more details on how to accomplish this on your Raspberry Pi. It was a headache to get this thing working, but after, I don't know, almost 2 weeks of just testing and troubleshooting, I got it up and running. This is the first time I messed with the Raspberry Pi. It was quite the learning experience. I do plan on making another version of this concept, but with another smaller computer. This one actually cost me close to 100, so I'm gonna have to save up a little before I can do this. And lastly, I've seen a few comments, not very many, requesting I sell something like this, and of course I don't consider myself with enough skills to create a product like this, and if I were to, I would want to refine it, which I'm actually in the process of doing. I want to, you know, touch up on a few things that I think could have been improved. For example, the acrylic window, I don't like it because acrylic scratches very easily. If I were to create a product that you would buy in a store, I would rather go with tempered glass, which is what I'm looking into. I'm not saying I'm going to sell this or making any promises. I just want to improve on the original design. So if you guys do decide to make this at home, which you guys end up with, looks more professional than versus what I currently have up online, which is fine. You know, it's a good start, but of course there's always room for improvement because this case was never designed for this kind of project and I'm adapting it to it. So, you know, it's just a few things I need to work on. Also, if you guys happen to have any spare NZXT H440 side panels that you don't need, feel free to message me. I'm planning on refining this process and I don't want to use the one I have currently in my case, so I have one on the way, but just in case I mess up or I need to redo it, it's nice to have a backup. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll keep you guys posted. And if you haven't noticed, I've hit more than 100 subscribers on this channel. 100 subscribers. So as a way to celebrate, I'm going to be giving away 3 Steam keys for Wallpaper Engine. If you're interested and would like one, feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll choose 3 people at random 2 weeks from now. Once again, you guys have a great day. This is One Pixel at a Time, signing off.